That is a live look at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, home of today's annual Army-Navy game. As both teams get set, we are taking a look at a new book called Invisible Generals. The author is Doug Melville. The generals helped raise him and his father and were the first and second Black Americans promoted to that rank in U.S. history. But Melville never knew most of their story, which often was buried or ignored for decades. His quest started when he attended a star-studded movie screening more than a decade ago and got the surprise of a lifetime.
These are American boys going to work. They're flying over Italy, over the coast of Holland, and over Germany, in search of the enemy.
By now, the Tuskegee Airmen are among our nation's most celebrated public servants. African-American military pilots who flew during World War II, led by Squadron Commander Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., seen here with his father.
The Distinguished Flying Cross was presented to Colonel Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. by the Army's highest-ranking Negro officer, Brigadier General Benjamin O. Davis, Sr.
There are books, documentaries, and movies about Tuskegee. The most famous was Red Tails in 2012.
These jets ain't nothing. We need more speed. Let's get some altitude.
But when Benjamin O. Davis Jr.'s great-nephew Doug Melville attended a Red Tails screening more than a decade ago,
Colonel,
he noticed one whopping omission.
I was expecting General Benjamin O. Davis, who was being played by Terrence Howard, to be addressed as such in the movie. But then when he walked on screen, he was the commander of the Red Tails. He looked just like him. But when he was addressed, it was Colonel Bullard.
Colonel Bullard. Sir.
The name of the most prominent Black general in American history had been changed.
I was looking around the theater wondering, does anybody realize that that's not the right name? And the movie ended and we had an after party, and I started asking people who were producers and involved in the movie, hey, do you know anything about the names in the movie? And they kept saying to me, Doug, this is Hollywood. This is not a documentary.
How did that make you feel?
I froze because all I could think of was these men fought for their country. They were invited to the screening. This is their biggest moment on screen. And the names were changed and they were in attendance. It immediately sparked something in me that I needed to be the person to help continue this story and dive into the lives of Benjamin O. Davis Sr. and Jr. and understand who were these men, what were their contributions, and what other parts of this story are unknown.
Benjamin O. Davis Sr. was born in 1880. Rejected at West Point because of his race, he still found a way to serve his country and raised a son who dreamed of doing the same. But with the Army segregated, Ben Sr. had to uproot his family just so Ben Jr. could get appointed to the academy.
His father had to relocate to Illinois to get the signature of Oscar DePriest, who was the only Black representative at the time. And I think sometimes we forget, but this is the 30s where people are Black Americans and white Americans, and people are used to using the term Negro or Black American. But when it says nationality of father and nationality of mother,
He just says American.
I love it.
It's great.
I love it.
No black, no white. American.
And that was what his father told him to fight for, and that's what I fight for today.
Even after arriving at West Point, Davis Jr. faced nonstop discrimination. For 4 years, he ate every single meal alone because white cadets refused to share a table with him. He would still go on to an extraordinary career, not just leading the Tuskegee Airmen.
For 25 years after the war, Benjamin Davis Jr. rose to complex security challenges in Air Force postings, at home and abroad.
At the Department of Transportation, Davis Jr. came up with the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit most of our highways still use, and created the initial version of what's now the TSA, in response to a wave of airline hijackings.
Hijackers have been afforded service and responsiveness that's not provided even the first-class traveler.
But while on active duty, Davis Jr. never got the 4th star most everyone felt he deserved. And even when he was given that much later, he was denied something else.
In 1998, we were all invited to the White House grounds to go participate. But the night before, we had to sign a piece of paper that said that we would not get financially compensated for the 31 years that had passed from when he was scheduled to get the star in 1967, or compensated moving forward if he were to live after the promotion, which ended up being a total of 35 years. And his wife of over 60 years, Jeff, did not come to the ceremony because she was so furious that we would be given the honor, but only under the condition that no financial money would be accrued.
At West Point today, thanks in part to Melville's push, the Davis name is no longer hidden.
So this is it.
This is it, and I actually haven't seen this since we cut the ribbon, so.
Are you tearing up because it's cold or because you're emotional?
I think it's probably 50-50.
Yeah.
The Davis Barracks is the newest residence on campus, a towering memorial to a family finally visible.
To imagine that he went here for 4 years, completely silenced, and here we are standing here today in this huge monument, and Barracks has his name on it. It's unbelievable. It's hard sometimes to really put it into words because
You don't have to. Your face says it all.
it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's pretty amazing. The book is Invisible Generals. I love what Doug does because in the beginning, there's a long history and timeline if you're interested in the history and want to find out more about this. And sort of in the second half of the book, then he goes in and says, listen, people in their families might have a story that wasn't told. So he sort of helps guide people through, find out. Maybe it's a relative who doesn't talk much. Maybe they have a history that you can get into and that story you can tell.
Yeah. Shame on us for not paying him what he was due in salary.
Job well done, Doug. Job well done, Jeff.
There's no doubt.